All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork, where we continuously educate you on ways in which you can innovate and use the ways of innovation, using innovation towards how you build your teams in the workplace and make it so much more efficient and effective to your bottom line. To my regular listeners, here we go again. Another gem, man. Another gem. Shout out to podmatch.com for reviving the guests back on this show. It is like a revival. I'm telling you, I've been doing so many records. I can't even keep track of all the people that have been on the show lately. So you guys are in for a treat. You guys have been with me from jump. So today, Martin Salama. I mean, let me tell you, here it is. Hey, listen, I have Crookshank, so I know how to do it. Let me tell you, you guys are in for somebody who has seen rock bottom, has lost everything, has got to see things from the bottom up, and is not walking around with the bitterness, not walking around with excuses, has made it so he has built his life back up to do something really incredible. And what really drew me to your work actually was the acronym Warrior Life, seeing that my youth football program was the Warriors. I think we actually talked about that a little bit. So with all that, I don't want to make the intro too long because I can. Why don't you just kind of introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your background and, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you. That's fun. And you said a lot of great stuff about me, a lot of interesting things about my ups and downs in my life, which we'll get into for sure. But here I am. I'm 61 now, 61. And when I turned 60, I told my kids I'm at the halfway point of my life. I
Amen.
got another 60 to go.
Amen.
And
Amen.
they're like, who's taking care of you? I go, you are.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, I've had my ups and downs, and I'm happy to say that I learned that the roller coaster of life really has great ups and great downs, but it's all based on how you are allowing it to affect you.
Right.
And I've taken those roller coasters and made them into baby coasters now. So and that's all by my shifting my mindset from the world is falling to what can I do to calm the seas.
Right. So when I said Warrior Life, it's actually an acronym that you came up with. Life is actually the acronym. So can you just kind of go in a little bit about the acronym, what it is, and then sort of kind of explain what got you to that point? Because I actually have an episode on this show that's titled Power of Acronyms, and I'm a big acronym guy because I love the fact that it teaches kids that there's more than one meaning to a word. So, I'll let you break that down.
Then I am in the right place.
All right.
Because I've got a ton of them. But what happened is one day I was loving what I was doing in my life personally. At the time, I was a divorce recovery coach, and I was looking to expand what I was doing. I was looking to get to a greater, make a greater impact. And I was doing something that I was never very good at because I'm ADHD. I was meditating. Okay. Because you imagine I'm ADHD guy meditating.
Right.
My brain's all over the place. I don't know how anybody can calm their brain and not think about anything for a minute, let alone 10 minutes guided. So I was doing this meditation with a guided meditation, and I had this download of information that I loved my life, and I wanted to show other people how to do it as well. So after I finished meditating, I wrote for about 2 hours, and I created this acronym for the word life, and it stands for live incredibly full every day. And for me, it has a double meaning. It means you should be happy and you should have a meaningful life, right? Because it's easy to say, okay, I'm happy. That's self-love, self-care, even selfish. But are you having a meaningful life? What are you doing that's selfless? What are you giving back to your family, to your community, to the world? You could be happy with no meaning, and you could be meaningful with not happiness. So if you're living incredibly full every day, you got both of them in there.
So what's going on? So again, like you, I've come up with quite a few acronyms, but I know that it was coming from a place where I was going through something. Like when I came up with the acronym that started this show, actually Swiftly, Skilled, Well-Informed Front Team, and You Lift Yourself. That's the acronym for Swiftly. I was in a situation where I had to do everything at this particular gym I was working at. I had to train the people, I had to sign up the members, I had to help with the cleanliness of the gym, I had to pretty much do everything. What was going on in my life was like, look, this is just my life this is what I'm going through. So I'm going to create an acronym that can help me connect with an audience. What was actually happening in your life? And you could go, far as back as you'd like.
All right, cool.
What's happening to have such an impactful acronym, because that is powerful. That is a very, very powerful one. And I love how you make sure you make the note that, hey, it's about selfless love. It's not about just because there's a lot of shit that can make people happy that is very selfish. That's coming from a selfish place. But
Yeah.
the selfless happiness is a great caveat to make sure people understand that that's important too.
Thank you. Thank you. So, let's go back just a few years to 2008. Now, that was a fun year in the world.
Yeah.
We had a financial crisis.
I remember that year specifically. I was growing up in Maryland, so Obama's in office, man. They got some color in the office and everything. So it was a great year. I tore my ACL and I was going through it that year.
Yeah, but he wasn't in office yet, right?
Yeah.
He came in office in November of 2008.
Right.
Right. And he didn't actually take office until 2009.
2009, right.
Right. So, and what helped him get elected, it wasn't the only thing, but the economy crashed in September.
Yep.
Thanks to Bernie Madoff, the subprime loans.
And
just like that, we were in a recession.
You're right.
Right. And that definitely helped him. I'm not saying that was the only thing. He had a lot of great things going for him.
Yeah, actually, I mean, listen, and I hate to talk politics on this show, but I'll just give you this quick one. Is when he was giving his speech, no, not him, it was George, I think it was George, no, John McCain was giving the speech. Yeah. And I was listening to my father, he's pays attention to this stuff. McCain sort of started to allude to what you just said about how difficult it was going to be to get in. And my dad's like, no, you can say it was tough because of how much it crashed and what the Republicans did and all that. But
that's right.
The politics on this show. I just want to make that point.
Absolutely. So, but what happened to me at that time, so for the 5 years before that, my wife and I were working on a project to build a multi-million-dollar health club and tennis center by the Jersey Shore, a couple of hours away from where you are, in Maryland. And that's where I am right now. I just moved down for the summit to the Jersey Shore.
Okay.
And I used to live here for 20 years. I lived by the shore all year round. And we were working on this project for 5 years. And it took us 5 years. We had to find the land, then we had to get a feasibility study, then we had to raise the capital, then we had to go get the drawings done and the engineering done and get the city to approve it. And each one of this took time and money.
Yeah.
Right. So, and every time we go, the bank would like, yeah, we love this project. We can't wait for you to get in the ground.
Right.
We gotten but the problem was we were waiting for the approvals from the city and the state. And just when we thought we got everything in 2007, they're like, you know what? We need you to do a civil engineering. Civil engineering, what's that? Oh, we want to see what the traffic is going to do. Do you have enough parking and all that? All right, we'll go back. Now, if it was 2006 or 2007, going into the bank was like going to Costco and getting samples from the ladies on the end of the aisles. Lunch in Costco for free.
Right.
But and you could walk into the bank in those days and they were giving away money.
Right.
And I actually refinanced my house a couple of times during that time. So by the time we finally got the approvals in the summer of 2008, we were over $3 million, close to $3.5 million into the project between my money, family money, investor money, and everything.
Right.
We go to the bank, we're like, we finally got all the approvals.
Yeah.
Yep, we're not lending right now. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Are you serious? After 2 years? Yeah.
They go, well, things are slowing down. We're not lending that quickly. Then this was August. A month later, paid off subprime loans. I lose everything. I mean, everything. I stopped paying my mortgage. I stopped paying my car payments. A couple of months later, my son tells me, Dad, look outside. They were towing away my BMW. That's what happens when you don't pay your bills.
But you were, that one actually is a trigger for me. I've had a similar idea, but this was Ocean City, Maryland, and I tried to start up my own minor league football team, and I was so convinced that the Ocean City Sharks was going to work, I stopped paying my car note, quit my job. The car that I was sleeping out of eventually got repossessed, and I had to move back home to Silver City. So that
Right.
feeling, and for a long time, this is how bad it was. For the longest time, they were looking for me, but I was sleeping out of my car in Ocean City, Maryland. So by the time I got back to Silver Spring, there they were taking it, and it was absolutely heartbreaking to see that. I truly resonate with you. It is one of the worst pains you
And
can
you know,
possibly go through. Now, I didn't have kids. I was 25 when this happened.
right.
I can only imagine what it's like to have a
For my
family.
18-year-old to see the car
Right.
being taken away.
Oh
Right.
my
And
God.
I
That's
run
tough.
out to the car. I'm like, wait, stop. No, you didn't pay your bill. Well, can I get my stuff out of the car? No, man, you lose it all. Wait, but it's not yours. I don't care.
Yeah, they just got to do what they got to do,
They
right?
gotta do what they gotta do. And you know, that's their job.
Yeah,
Right? So eventually the house got foreclosed on.
right.
Okay. And I went into a major depression for about a year. Now, I happened to be lucky in terms of what state I was in when my house was foreclosed, because New Jersey, like most of the rest of the states, had a ton of foreclosures. So by the time they got to me and said, okay, we're going to move on the foreclosure, it was 8 or 9 years later.
Mm.
You know, so it was a little crazy, but that's part of my story, which I'll get to in a minute.
Yeah,
So here I am. I'm in a depression for a year,
yeah,
and I can't even lift my head for the first month or so.
right.
What the hell is happening? I can't believe I gambled this way. But that's what entrepreneurs do. That's what businessmen do. And
Yeah.
I felt like it was a calculated risk.
Hmm.
You know, I had the bank, I had the investors, I had everybody. I was like, who knew that the world was going to fall apart?
Right. And before you go further, I want to make sure we get this point. You were doing this project out of the goodness of your heart. I mean, and you could correct me if I'm wrong. It wasn't a big, oh, I want to make a bunch of money from this project, but it was actually, and obviously you want to pay bills, you want to generate revenue, you're not stupid, but this was not something where it's like a get rich quick. This was actually something good for the community that they would have been able to use, that they would have been like Jersey Shore would have loved this. So I want to make sure we make that point for you listeners is when you're going out and doing business, it has got to come from the heart. It is not about I'm going to grab a bunch of money real quick. That is not how you do business. I know that that's the way it gets portrayed on TV, but the real businessmen, the real winners, the real entrepreneurs, they actually are coming from a good place. So I want
well, and it's interesting how that happened. You know, since you brought that up, my wife, so it's 2002, 2003 when we started. It's about 2003, 2004. And I just closed the business. And my wife comes to me and she says, I know you're looking for something to do. And I've been playing tennis. And the only time I can get court time is 9, 10 o'clock at night because there's so limited tennis courts.
Right.
So that started it, you know, and there's no question I was looking at it. Oh, wow, what an impact I can make on the community. But on a deeper level, it was me wanting to make my wife happy.
Right.
Right. Because I got to tell you, Aswan,
I
am not an athlete. You could actually call me an athletic supporter.
Athletic supporter. Well, it's something, an athletic supporter. Good point.
So the irony was, I was doing something that was out of my comfort zone, but it made sense, and the numbers made sense, and what I was going to do was going to be beautiful, and I would have made some great money. But as you said, it would have been great because we were thinking about putting an area for the kids when school is over, so the parents can bring the kids, and we could do tutoring for the kids, or have a homework area for the kids. All these things were involved in it, and we were really looking forward to it. And we put everything into it, our heart and soul.
Yeah.
Literally, and every penny we had. So here we are, and the world falls apart. We lose everything, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I got to pay back the loans. I've got to whatever.
Yeah.
So about a year later, I'm going through some therapy. I'm going through some coaching. I say to myself, you know what? This is the first time in my life that I can do whatever I want to do. So what is it that I want to do?
Wow.
Because I don't have the money to go and do things that, like, my wife came up with this idea, blah, 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 all that. And I started thinking about my life and the things that I love doing. And one of them, I was always involved in community events, community organizations. As a matter of fact, I'm very proud to say I'm the founder and the first president of the first synagogue in Eatontown, New Jersey. built it from nothing. And now there's over 400 families that go to that synagogue, and they're expanding. And
Yeah.
I'm not even involved with them anymore. They had me come back for the groundbreaking expansion, and they spoke about my vision and all that thing. And for me, that was my way of leaving a legacy for my
Yeah.
children, for my community, on that level of what we talked about being meaningful.
Right.
Right. So here I am, and I'm like, okay, I love doing that. But what was it about it that I loved? I loved being the leader. And as a leader, people would come in and say to me, I can't do what you're doing, Martin. I'm like, well, I don't need you to do what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to shine in what you're good at.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm good at. So I'd have a conversation with them. And as I started to realize I was coaching them, and they would come in and they'd say, okay, I can do this many hours. I said, great. Whatever you could give me, we take, we'll love it. And I would develop leaders from what they were good at, because I was a good leader and I to find out I was a good coach too.
Exactly.
So I started looking into becoming a life coach.
Right? I got you.
So one led to the next, and that's where it took me.
Right.
How can I serve? How can I use my gifts, being a good listener, intuitive, a leader, a coach, and all that, and put it all together and do something with it? And I started looking into coaching, life coaching, and I found a great place to go to. And so this was about a little over a year after the place closed. And I go to the place. It happened to have been located right near me, even though it was a national and international thing. Its headquarters were located 2 miles away from me by the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, there you go.
And I go and I tell the guy who's the CFO, I want to join this. I want to take this course. It's a lot of money that I don't have. He says, well, you could go and get financing. I said, nobody's financing me.
Yeah, I know that feeling, boy. You gotta climb back. It's some kind of
So I told him, listen, I really believe this is my calling. Let's come up with a number I can pay directly to you every month. And let me do that. He says, okay, you got a deal, except you don't get your certification until you're paid off. I said, fair deal.
Right.
Fair deal, So did that and started paying him $300, $400, $500. I don't know exactly what it was, but I paid him every month. Right. But before that, so now I'm about to go in. And it's about 2 months before the coaching training starts. And it's my 24th wedding anniversary. And I got a very interesting gift from my wife that day. She said, I want a divorce.
Jesus. Jesus. I mean, when I talk about hitting rock bottom, again, I make sure I preference it by saying I was 25 years old. I was still under my parents, kind of living under my parents' rules. I tried something, it didn't work out, but I always preference it by saying I didn't have responsibilities. I wasn't married. I could afford to take these risks and lose everything. But when I hear stories like yours, it puts my hitting rock bottom into complete perspective, because that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah, but that doesn't minimize what your rock bottom is. It doesn't minimize your own.
Yeah, it doesn't minimize, but I want to make sure it preferences it, and I want to make sure that people understand the weight and the impact of everything you lived through. You already thought you already were on that side of life where it's like, I want to build this. And again, you just said it. You guys were about to build a business together, and then 25 years or 24 years in, now all of a sudden you want a damn divorce. So
yeah. So
and the thing is, I listened to you before. As you grew, it's amazing, and I don't want to spoil the story for the listeners, but it's amazing how you were able to find the kind of the silver lining in that. So I'll give you the mic before I
thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for listening to some of my
I enjoyed it.
So you could imagine my feeling at that moment. You could imagine I felt like I got punched in the stomach and knocked down again. Somebody gave me a gut punch that sucked me right down to the ground.
Right.
I should have said something to her, but I didn't get anything like that for you for our anniversary. But I didn't. Right. I basically felt every emotion you could imagine: anger, abandonment, lonely, and everything. And what the one thing that came into my mind, and I remember it like it was yesterday, why does everything keep happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I said, and I thought to myself, and I'm like, what am I going to do now with this coaching thing? Am I going to still go forward with it?
Yeah.
And I think God sent me a message. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, you know what? You want to go for coaching? You better make sure that you get to understand that you got to fix yourself first before you help anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this was his message, that let me get you down there. Let me get you really rock bottom,
Mm-hmm.
so that when you walk in there, you're open for what they're going to be. You're ready to receive the message.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. And right before I went, they sent me a list of books. They emailed me a list of books. They said, read a couple of these books. And one of the books was The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
On Miguel Ruiz. Oh man. That book, oh my, that book was recommended to me by a client. Well, back when I was training, I'm like literally sleeping out of it. Just when I first got the floor, I'm sleeping out of a gym at the couch. And that book, because I was like motivating the members, that book was recommended to me by a member who would come in every single day. And she's like, you need to read that book. And it has come up over and over and over on this show. The Four Agreements, man. It's a quick read and it's very powerful.
Yeah. And for me, the
Mm-hmm.
second agreement really was like it was Don Miguel was speaking directly to me,
Mm-hmm.
telling me a secret that the whole world had been telling me my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But until that minute, it didn't matter.
It hit
I
home.
never heard it. You know, it's that saying, the master will appear when the student is ready.
Yeah.
Well, the student was ready.
The student
And
was
the
ready.
second agreement is don't take anything personally.
Yeah.
And that was what I was doing my entire life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, and it got me. So I went into that weekend,
Mm-hmm.
that first coaching weekend, and I went to a top school, top training, and they said, you don't have to be who you think you have to be or who anybody else thinks you should be.
Mm-hmm.
You could be whoever you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever said that to me in my entire life.
Hmm.
Right? This is what you're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was the head. And I was like, yes, sir. To my dad, to my mother, yes, ma'am, whatever. That's what I did. And that started to unravel that I was a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people pleasers tell you, I'm not a people pleaser. I just like making everybody happy.
Right.
They don't want to admit. It's a tough thing to admit. But for me, what I found out is that as a people pleaser, I took everything personally. I felt like the world was on my shoulders. I was a control freak, right? I got to make sure that it goes right because I want it to please everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I needed the recognition. I needed everybody to say, wow, Martin, you're doing a fantastic job. And when all those things didn't happen, I had a very short temper.
Mm-hmm.
And I would explode, kind of like a nuclear reactor.
Right.
And I'd leave fallout all over the place. So when I heard this and went to that weekend and remembered what Miguel Ruiz said, don't take anything personally, it was the beginning of the light opening. But I also understood, they said, don't think that just because you got this now, tomorrow you're saved, you're cured. It takes work. It takes time. And by the way, on the Four Agreements, speaking about football, you talked about football and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that there's a football player, one of the greatest football players of all time? And by the way, I'm a Giant fan. Let me just say that.
Okay.
One of the greatest footballs of all time says the Four Agreements is his mantra every single day. Tom Brady.
Tom Brady?
Tom Brady. Every single day says, I repeat, that's my mantra, the Four Agreements.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
I didn't know
Be
that. I thought
impeccable
I
with
knew
your
a lot
words.
about Tom Brady. I had no idea.
Be impeccable with your word. Don't take
Yeah.
anything personally. Don't make any assumptions, and always do your best.
Always do your best, right?
Right? I'm like, well, this guy's got 7 rings. He could have had 2 more, but the Giants beat him.
Yeah.
Just saying, man.
I grew up a Redskins fan, and I went to Stony Brook with a lot of you Giants fans, and I had to shut my ass up. I want to talk, and I am a shit talk. I argue about sports all day. I can be on First Take if I wanted to, but when it comes to my hometown Commanders, Redskins, whatever the hell it is they want to call themselves, I have to shut up because there's nothing they've done. I've watched one playoff win the entire life. One.
By the way, Eli should be in the
hopefully,
Hall of
I don't
Fame
know.
one day, just between me and you. One
Huh?
day, Eli should be in the Hall of Fame.
You know, I can't argue with Giants fans no more. They ain't winning shit.
But
So,
anyway, if he thinks it's good enough,
mhm,
then maybe it's something that we should consider.
right.
If you and maybe that's not your mantra. My mantra is live incredibly full every day.
Hmm.
Right. So now this
But
happens.
I had the same takeaway with that book when it comes to don't take things personally, because again, a lot of the stuff we're talking about, I name ask one the amount of bullying and the amount of psychological warfare, the amount of just being dismissed, I've learned that is what's pushing you to entrepreneurship. That's what's pushing you to get this perspective. That's what's
Yeah.
pushing you to give you a natural thought leader. And love how you, I don't even remember if you said it while we were recording or when we were recording, but when you said 60 years old and you're just getting started, that is the flip side. God does not put these things on your heart to make you bear down. He does it so he removes people from your life so you can be free on
That's
that
right.
side of life. So, I
That's
mean,
right.
listen, that part we're not taking things personally. You're
Yeah.
right. It's
And
actually like if you're talking football, when Steve Young won that Super Bowl and he said, "Get that monkey off my back." Right? I could
yeah.
run without Joe Montana, and it's free. It is absolutely
That's
freeing.
right.
So
Eli's monkey was Peyton, you know?
Eli's monkey was paid. Yeah, no, I don't know if he actually did it on camera, but and
No,
I
no,
will
no.
say I
He's too
thought that
classy. He never would.
I would say that they had everything that would stop Tom Brady. That defensive line was amazing. OC Humanura, Justin Tuck, Michael Strahan on the same D line. They couldn't
That's
block
right.
them. So that's how
That's
you
right.
beat Tom Brady. You get a pass rush. So I've always believed because of you guys, you get a pass rush straight, you will give yourself a chance in this passing league. And
Yeah, no
you got
question. No
model. You
question.
guys, because I mean, you had Randy Moss, yeah, but y'all did it.
Look,
Y'all did
look,
it.
Steve Spagnuolo went home and figured out what to do.
He did what he had to do. The Spags, baby. Spags.
So anyway, so
Uh-huh.
now I'm going through this coaching stuff at the same time I'm going through my divorce.
Hmm.
Okay. And I get divorced and I finish the coaching program and I pay off.
Yeah.
I pay off to the school and I get my certification
Hmm.
all around the same time. And I'm on a call where they're saying how to promote yourself on Facebook. And the woman says you should go onto Facebook and make sure you don't have any stupid memes or your information is updated. I look, it shows that I'm married. So I switch it to divorced.
Hmm.
Within 24 hours, I get a DM from a woman in my community who happened to have been friends with my wife when we were kids.
Right.
She goes, now that you're divorced, are you ready to start dating? I'm like, Kelly, you're married. She goes, not me, you idiot.
Right.
I
Right.
go, well, then what do you want? She goes, I'm your matchmaker. I what? What is
Huh.
this? Fiddler on the Roof?
Right. 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 So she DMs you saying she's your matchmaker?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I come from a very small, close knit Jewish community in Brooklyn that
Okay.
goes down to the shore in the summertime. We all migrate together between Brooklyn and the shore.
Oh, okay. So okay. Right. Right.
So everybody knows everybody.
Hmm.
She goes, you ready to start dating? I said, I don't know. I'm just divorced.
I like literally just hit the button. Like
Right, right.
just made it public.
So she says, let's talk.
Uh-huh.
We talked for about an hour. And
Right.
she told me, I've never met a man who just got divorced who's so well put together like you.
Yeah.
I said, well, I guess it's been the coaching.
Hmm.
She goes, well, then that's what you should do. You should coach around divorce.
Right.
And that became a divorce recovery coach.
That's amazing. And this was the first time I even knew a divorce recovery coach existed. I didn't even know this was a profession or something that people
The niche,
do.
right?
And, and there's a couple of things that I have to point out that I don't want to get brushed off throughout for the listeners is number one, you couldn't afford the coaching. All right. And as a listener, there's certain things you want to do in life. You got to figure out how to negotiate. You got to figure out how to go, I want to do this, look people in the eye. And again, social media takes you away from that, but shake people's hands and say, let's come up with a number, let's figure something out and do that. That is an important skill to have. And then follow up with what it is you want to do. When you do that, there's nothing that a person can do to kind of, I mean, obviously it hurt when she told you, but in your mind, there's this new thing you can be doing. There's like a new pathway. There's a new phase in life. And there's a point where you're like, maybe this isn't so much of a bad thing to get away from. And I heard you talked about her before. You don't speak ill of her. You don't speak ill with any bitterness. I think you've even alluded to, you guys are great friends now. It's just
Yeah.
working out. But all of that comes from the being willing to go out. Hey, I don't got the money, I don't have it, but I want to do this and be serious and negotiate your way into certain situations. That's
Yeah,
what you got to do in
absolutely.
life. That's what you got to do as an entrepreneur. You
That's what I
gotta,
got to tell you. Looking back now, it was the greatest, other than my four children,
yeah,
it was the greatest gift she ever gave me.
yes, I remember. Yeah, I heard you say yes.
It really
Yeah,
was. I mean, what I found out going through coaching, I learned
yeah,
about values. And I
yeah.
thought I knew what a value was, but until you get deep down and understand what values are and what your
Right,
values are, you
right.
don't get it. You don't get it. And I realized that my values and her values were
Mhm.
never the same.
Yeah.
As a result, we were in a codependent relationship.
Hmm.
And from another book by Don Miguel Ruiz, The Mastery of Love.
Hmm.
I don't know if you ever read that one.
No, no. I got as far as I think I did read the fifth agreement. I
The Fifth
don't.
Agreement.
The
Yeah.
four one was.
Right. So The Mastery of Love was also on that list.
Hmm.
And I thought, oh, great. I'll read this book and it'll save my marriage.
Hmm.
I couldn't get through the introduction.
Hmm.
It wasn't resonating with me. 6 months later, one of the things that happens in the coaching school I went to is they
Hmm.
put you in with peer coaches. You start coaching and get coached by other students as you go to start learning how to coach.
Okay.
I got a coach who had just gotten divorced.
Right.
So a few months into it, I finally move out of the house, move back to New York, all
Hmm.
that stuff. And she says, you should read The Mastery of Love. I'm like, I tried. She goes, no, you weren't in the right head. I read it in one day.
Hmm.
And one of the things it talked about, which I then understood my marriage, and when I wrote my first book, Recovering from Divorce, it's in there. He talks about, in my version, my take on it,
Hmm.
he talks about that whatever kind of relationships you have in your life, right? It's not just a romantic husband wife relationship. They should all be 50-50. That doesn't mean give 50%. That means you should be equal partners in whatever the relationship is. Like
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship with you right now on a call.
Yeah.
We have to respect each other 50-50,
Yeah.
right? And that means I'm giving my 100% to you, or you're giving your 100% to me.
Yeah.
So, and when they're not, it's out of balance. So as I was writing my Recovering from Divorce book, I went back to that and I thought about it. And all of a sudden it hit me. I never had a 50-50 relationship with my ex.
Right.
I realized that I loved her more than she loved me. Now,
Mm.
I'm not taking anything away from her by saying that. It
Right.
was what it was.
Exactly.
But the deeper meaning to me, I came to understand is the one that loves less has the power in the relationship. Because the one that loves more is trying to get them to love them as much. And
Yeah.
they'll do whatever they have to,
Mm.
even go against their own values to have that happen.
Exactly. 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 And it's amazing how this whole thing kind of ties together because it's making me think back to the point you made about being selfless and not selfish. Because especially in relationships, and my longest relationship I've been in, Martin, was when I was in high school. I had a high school sweetheart that I was with for 4 years. And it didn't hit me until I left that relationship, went on to college, got with other girls, had flings, did my thing in college, where I realized this girl was growing up without a father in a household. Now, I personally have grown up with it felt like about 6 or 7 different fathers. All right. Aside from my actual father being up my ass about every single decision, I had 4 uncles. I had football coaches that were like drill sergeants. I had teammates. I had so many different fathers. And I realized she was using me to fill that void at the fact that her father wasn't around. And when I allowed myself to feel the pain of that, it just being used for to fill a void, that allowed me to say, I will never put myself in a situation like that again. You would
Right.
meet this girl, you say this is the nicest girl you would ever meet. But when it comes to being selfish, we were selfishly with each other because of these voids we were trying to fill. And
Right.
this can happen, like you just said, without the romantic aspect to it. you become that people pleaser. You have that disease to please, because if you get in a habit of constantly having this selfish mentality with relationships, it affects your business. You're going to just get in a relationship just for the money. Somebody's going to buy you out, take away everything you build, and you're not going to know the right situation. So these are habits that can
Right.
ruin you over and over and over again. And
100%.
you'll see it repeat over and over and over again, man. So
100%.
I
100%.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I do want to make sure we talk a little bit about, not, you already mentioned the first book, but the next book that you put out, which is
Yeah.
primarily helping entrepreneurs. And as an entrepreneur, the definition of an entrepreneur pretty much is you eat what you kill. All right. You got to go out and you got to go out, take your risks, make your sales, and everything around you has got
Right.
to be ticking on point. So, you can go ahead and kind of speak on that a little bit. And,
Yeah. So we talked about the life concept, right?
yeah,
So this
and that's
happened
part
a
of it.
few, yeah,
Yeah,
100% is a big part of it.
yeah.
So that life part came a few years after I was doing my coaching and all that
Mhm.
as a divorce recovery, and I had that epiphany when I was meditating, and I
Mhm.
put life into it. And by the way, during this time I was dating, right?
Mhm.
I would go out on these dates and I would ask women questions. They were being interviewed about their values, but it wasn't like, okay, let's have an interview. It was having a conversation
Yeah.
to really see, do they match with what I'm looking for?
Yeah.
No, yes, no, 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 no. Okay, next time, next one, next. And then one day, Kelly calls me up. Now I'm in the system, her system, for
Right.
about 4 or 5 years by now, right?
Uh-huh.
And a lot of the reason why I was because I financially wasn't ready to move forward.
Yeah.
There was a woman I was dating who was great, but I couldn't fill the needs she needed.
Mm-hmm.
So we left, we parted great friends
Yes.
after we dated for a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she calls me up one day. She goes, Martin, I've got a woman you've got to take out. I'm like, well, tell me about her. So she starts describing her list. I go, we come from a small community. I don't know this girl. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know this girl. She goes, well, you know Ralph and Cookie? I go, yeah. Ralph is friends with my sister Linda, who's 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
Cookie was friends with my sister Nancy, who's 7 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know them. They're like my contemporaries.
Right.
Kind of. She goes, oh, it's their daughter.
Their daughter. Their
I'm like,
daughter, yes.
their daughter?
Right.
Well, how old is she? Oh, she's about 15 years younger than you.
15 years younger. There you
I'm
go.
like, man, if she wants to go out with me, I'm.
I mean, hey,
So she calls me back. She goes, yep, she wants to go out with you.
right.
And she's checking off all the boxes.
Right.
We go out again. She's checking off all the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy. Now, about a month into it, I tell her, Sarita, I got to tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
It's only about a month, and I need to tell you this, but you don't need to say anything to me. But I'm falling in love with you
Mm-hmm.
because I love who you are, and I love that you see me as I am, and you're not trying to change me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, P.S. 2 weeks later, she told me she loved me. 2 years later, we got married, and we just passed our 6th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah,
Thank
that
you
you're
so much.
happy. I could tell. That's awesome.
100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So now,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm dating, I'm there, I find a woman, all that, and I got life. Now we get hit with another firestorm.
Mm-hmm.
2020 comes along,
Yes.
right? And just when everybody thought, okay, everything's hunky dory, they go, okay, we're going to shut down for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Stay home for 2, 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I was in California. I went to a speaker convention.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's like, come home. And Rudy Gobert they just announced Rudy Gobert is COVID, and they're shutting down the NBA.
Yeah, and I saw. I remember the interview. He's pretending to touch stuff and all that. Touch the
I'm in
mic.
California watching it.
That day. So that day I was, because I didn't really know what it was. I wasn't paying attention to it. But my mom called me, and because I had just put my book out too. But my mom called me and she goes, "Yeah, I have some news for you." And I'm thinking a family member caught it, and she goes, "Yeah, so I was talking to somebody about your book, and they didn't like the way you said this." I'm like, I'm thinking it's about a COVID thing, and she's talking about some maybe not 5-star book review that I got and all that. So, yeah, you're right. That was it. That was a scary time.
Yeah. So we all locked down,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I fly home, And I walk in the door, and we don't know what the hell's going on with this thing. Right?
Mhm.
So I stay for the weekend. I take the red eye home. The flight is 3/4 empty. They bump me up to business class because the whole plane is
Yeah,
empty.
because right.
I'm like, and people are walking around with their sanitary wipes, cleaning the.
Yeah, because we
I'm like, okay, give me
no
one.
knew no one knew what was going on. I remember those days.
So
Very
I
true.
walk in the house, and she
Mhm.
says, "Take your clothes off." I'm
Mhm.
like, "Okay, here we go." She goes, "No, put them in the wash, sleep on the couch,
Yeah.
don't come near me," because we didn't know what was.
That's a great one. I just pictured it. Yeah. You're like, all right, that's a welcome home right there. And then you're like,
So now we're shut down. The
right.
kids are living. The kids are home. She's home. I was working from home.
Yeah.
I could Zoom anywhere. I was Zooming for years before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Right? And it's now May, and we're still shut down.
Mhm.
But I got to tell you, Oswan, every day I found a reason to go out,
Mhm.
shopping, go for a walk. I put the gloves
Cabin
on, I
fever,
put the
yeah.
mask on. I went out.
But
So,
I thought it was important to stay active during those times. I mean, I would still
yeah,
work because I mean that's how you protect yourself from it is actually working out, staying active.
right. And my wife and I would go walking 2-3 times a week
Yeah.
for an hour at least.
Hmm.
You know, so it's the middle of May, and I turn to her, I go, we live in Brooklyn, right? We go, let's go to the city. That's Manhattan.
Hmm.
For anybody who don't know, Brooklyn is a borough of the 5 boroughs of Manhattan.
Yeah.
When you say you go to the city, you're going from Brooklyn to Manhattan.
Yeah.
People say, aren't you living in the city? Oh, yeah, not really.
Exactly. Yeah. I
So,
spent a lot of time in Brooklyn, so I know what you mean.
so we drive to the city. Imagine, do you know what it's like to drive down Fifth Avenue at any time?
Mhm.
It's like a parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, that Sunday, I drove straight down Fifth Avenue without missing a traffic light.
Yeah. It
That's
was
how empty the streets were.
right.
And it's May. And I turned to my wife, I go, where is everybody? Wear your mask. Put the stupid gloves on. Stay 6 feet apart. Go
Yeah.
outside.
And it hits you guys really hard, really hard.
Yeah,
A
New
lot
York
of
got hit. And I'm
yeah.
like, what is everybody so worried about?
Hmm.
And then I realized the last 10, 12 years, my divorce, losing everything. And also I went on a whole weight issue. Okay,
Hmm.
where I was the heaviest I ever was, and looked in the mirror, turned around and changed my mindset, changed my thing, and started exercising,
Yeah.
lost 65 pounds in 9 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get it. The last 10, 12 years had prepared me for anything
Yeah.
because I could get through anything. So I
Hmm.
got onto Facebook and I said, guys, I get it. I understand what's going on. I know why you're worried.
Hmm.
And let me show you how you can go from being worried to a warrior.
Wow. That's a huge one.
Right.
Wow.
So that's where the warrior's life came from.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, Osman, I do have an acronym for the word warrior.
Please share
But
it.
you mentioned I wrote a book, but I also have a card deck,
Wow.
all right, which is the book in little snippets, plus a little more here and there.
Hmm.
But one of them is the abundant warrior within you.
Well, this was, I'm not sure if you took it from there, but this was actually the Four Agreements. There was a group, like a book club group that I was a part of, and we bought the cards for the Four Agreements that had it just like that, where they have a group of cards just like, I'm not sure if you actually knew that, but that's,
I didn't know that. I
oh,
did not know
yeah,
that.
they
So
have a card, like cards where you go over each agreement, each principle,
I
just like,
love it.
so there you go.
I'm gonna go get them.
Yeah. I'll make sure I send them to you, man.
All right, man. So warrior, W, wisdom, seek wisdom. Always look to grow. Oh, you never know everything.
Yes.
There's always something new to learn. A is actually 3 A's. Ask, act, attitude.
Hmm.
Ask is the law of attraction,
Hmm.
right? Uh, you think, okay, the law of attraction, I think about it, it happens. That's the foundation. You got to go deeper. So you ask the universe for what you want. It could even be as simple as, I just came up with an idea in my head.
Hmm.
That's an ask. What do you do with that idea? Right? How many times you hear somebody say, oh, I thought of that idea, I just didn't do it. And that guy's a millionaire now.
Yeah.
Schmuck.
You should have acted on it. Right. Mm.
All right. So act. Do what it is to get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the last one. And I put it in a cycle. It's a part of my cards as well, its own thing. The cycle of it, because it's a perpetual motion.
Mm-hmm.
Attitude. Have a mindset of you don't care about the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have that, oh, I have to have it, that mindset of lack goes out to the universe and keeps
Exactly.
you getting it. Right? So that's the A. Then R, realization. Realize and be confident that I have everything right now in my life. And the more you say I want more, the more it's going to elude you.
Yeah, you start losing it. All right.
Then R, recognize, be grateful, recognize gratitude, and practice gratefulness every day. Gratitude. Thank you. I write 3 things down every day that I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
Then I, imagination. Think big. You know, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale said, shoot for the stars, you may hit the moon.
Right.
Oh, optimism. Always feel positive in everything. Put on the rose-colored glasses. Don't let somebody tell you, oh, you're always thinking positively and you feel like you shouldn't do that. That's them. That's their issue.
Yeah, exactly.
And then R, resilient. Be flexible. Have an open mind. Get ready to change along the way.
That's amazing, man. That is amazing. Warrior. Stop being a warrior to a warrior. That's huge. Here we go again, Swiftly audience. We have another acronym, another powerful one.
And that's the book, Warrior to Warrior.
From warrior to warrior. And I almost forgot I was interviewing you for a second, man, because I feel like I just learned something new. That was a big breakthrough, and the word warrior for me, like I was telling you, hits a ton of triggers for me, because that's where I first learned the business. That's where I first played for the White Oak Warriors and became the most successful youth football organized, the nationally known youth football organization. And again, being a warrior is very natural, especially someone like yourself who's admitted to having kind of that disease to please. So
yeah.
You know, well, go ahead.
So that's what I do. That's what I did. I put together a program during COVID of helping people, taking the things I've been coaching people for years and coming up with, like, the cycle of A's, the 3 A's I talked about.
Right.
Other things on how to learn how to respond instead of react. But what's happened over the last almost year now, I put together a program for coaches.
Right. So yeah, well, actually, that's what I was going to ask you, is like, what's next in your business and things like that.
We're
in tune, man. We're into it. Right? Yeah, we're into it.
We're into it. And what happened was, for many years, I'd go to these coaching programs. Oh, we'll get you the impact you want to make. We'll help you make millions of dollars. They were done with you. They're done for you. And what I found was they were really done to you programs. When you got burned because you thought there was going to be everything like in a box, and it wasn't that way. And like, oh, you want this? It's more. Oh, you want to do that? Oh, you have to do that on your own. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And I got really turned off. And I was like, you know what? I got to put together a program that understands that what you're doing, you're partners in this, but in a way that makes sense. And when I was figuring it out, I went to one of my coaches and I showed them the program. And he goes, you know what? You did something that just last week I was at a Facebook group and they said, how come coaches never put skin in the game? He says, you did that. Because what I did was I came up with a risk reversal strategy, right? Because I knew what it was like to get burned, to go into these programs, put all the money out there and then get nothing from it.
Exactly.
So I said, all I want, I'll get you to $1 million in 2 years guaranteed. Okay. All I want right now is 12.5% of my entire fee. And then you don't pay me again until you're making money.
So you're making money, right?
You're paying me from your profit, from the money you're making.
Right.
Because now, how motivated am I to get you to the first threshold? I want to get paid, but more importantly, I want to build a relationship with you. And you want to make the impact, make the money, make a difference.
Right. So who would you say is your ideal client? Would it be coaches? Would it be managers, executives? Kind of put all that stuff out there now.
I can do managers and executives, but for them, it would be more about figuring out how we can make sure that you have a culture that I believe that any business, no matter what somebody else tells you, it starts with the top of the business. And the mindset that the head of the company has will affect everybody. Right. So I can do that to them by having different metrics to hit.
Right.
Right. But for the most part, right now, I'm mostly focusing on coaches that are looking to make an impact
Right.
and want to feel like they're making money. It's not just about an impact, but it's also more life, more profit, more impact.
Amen to that, man. Amen to that. I so before I let you get out of here, just put kind of how can people get in touch with you? What's the best route to reach out if
So
they're
I
interested?
made it
There'll be a
simple.
lot of people interested after hearing this.
Yeah.
Because
I
it's an
made it
authentic
simple.
thing. You actually went through it, man. And that what I
Exactly.
know about, and before you even answer, what I know about life coaches, the best ones have their story out there, very transparent. They're not shying away from it because you can't be in this business with being shy and being timid and being embarrassed about when you made mistakes and you lost everything and you built it back
That's right.
up. You won't get any clients that way. So go
That's
ahead.
right. And, as a matter of fact, the people who have read my book, people that are
Mhm.
close to me, they go, boy, you get vulnerable in that book, don't
Yeah.
you? You get raw. I'm like, how am I going to help somebody if they don't know that they've got
Exactly.
somebody who knows what they're going through?
Mhm.
Yeah. But to find me, I made it very simple. Connectwithmartin.com.
Connect with Martin.com.
That's it.
I got it. I got
You
it.
go there, you can get downloads, free downloads of like, how about a coloring book for kids or adults on the Warrior acronym?
I teach at a school, so you can sign. I have my own color book, but you can sign me up for that. And I actually I wrote that because of a lot of like there was a girl like you who that she wasn't diagnosed, but you could tell there was some ADHD there, and the
Yeah.
coloring calmed them down. There's like kids on the spectrum that are dealing with
Yeah,
this learning disability. Sometimes the coloring actually calms them down.
absolutely. And by the way, it's okay to color outside the lines.
Right. It
When
is.
we grew up, don't color outside the lines.
Exactly. Just to calm them down though. Just an element where they're not
Yeah.
massive tantrums
100%.
that
So
are
go to connectwithmartin.com. You'll see there's a coloring book for kids. And then the parents are like, well, what about us? The adults,
right.
can't you make one for us too? I'm like, yeah, man. Okay. So
Yeah.
my book, the cards, you could make an appointment to find out about my program. You could find out
Right.
about me, whatever.
I got that
Connectwithmartin.com.
will so that'll be included in excuse me, that'll be included in the show notes as well. Martin, this has been absolutely incredible. And final thing I do with all my guests is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back in your hometown. You're watching your car get repossessed. You have your young people looking at you, like your kids looking at you, like, how are we going to get to practice, or how are we going to get wherever? And you have hit officially rock bottom. I want that guy to come. I want you to pretend that young guy came into the Zoom room right now. Give him some words of encouragement. I'm sure it's going to be a great one. And will officially close.
All right. All right. What I tell him is go out every day and make somebody laugh. And when you do, thank them for helping you fill your quota to make somebody laugh. Now, you do it all the time. You go to the supermarket, you make a joke to the cashier. You don't think about it. She don't think about it, and you go on with your day. But
Right.
imagine if you said, thank you for helping me fill my quota. Now they go like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, I made somebody laugh today.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow. Now I connected with that person.
Yeah.
You know what? Pay it forward. Make somebody else laugh and thank them.
Wow. That's amazing. So you're at rock bottom and you would tell this young, just go make somebody laugh and it'll be all right. And a lot of times as when we're going through stuff, one of the things I remember during those times, sometimes we feel like things are only happening to us, but you just never know what making somebody laugh will do. And there's always somebody else also going through something similar. So connect with people, man. Reach out. Do not go through life alone. It's the loneliest place you could possibly be. So
Right.
with all that, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.